All right, you want to start us out?
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe we could start off the chat this time around by talking about some of the trends that I think the internet tends to show off. So, for example, if we go back, we've kind of talked a little bit about this before, but like what is considered cool in the tactical gun industry space. So, for example, for a long time, it was okay to have like a totally bare bones gun, and then like the next minute, if you weren't running a red dot and a light and like a sling, then you weren't operator, quote unquote. And then the next thing was like, oh, you got to have like a laser in your gun. And then the next thing was like, oh, well, obviously, if you have a laser, you got to have nods. So then, like, what's like the next thing from there? Because like now everybody has helmet, night vision, plate carrier, fully decked out rifle with lasers and red dots and LPVOs and all this fancy stuff. So where do you elevate from here? And I've just noticed, and it's kind of waned a little bit, but a lot of people are repping the fact that they use simunitions even if they don't. So there's a lot of like misconception about simunitions. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about their usage and our personal experience with them. I'm not a professional. I do it mostly out of hobby, but I do participate in professional events from time to time. And I do have some experience using and shooting simunitions at professionals and also having them shot at me, which isn't as much fun. But I think it's kind of fun because I think both of us have used simunitions before. And to me, it's always funny to see when people try to flex that they use simunition stuff, but then there's like things that don't line up that basically makes it show, or it shows that they don't actually use sims. So, for example, there's a company called Blue Can Training that makes these blue fake suppressors that you slip over your rifle to like indicate that you're shooting sims out of it, and it gives you the length that your gun would normally have with a suppressor. So that way, when you're training or like when you're using simunitions, if you move through doorways and stuff, it simulates what your gun would feel like because you have the length of the suppressor on there. And like some other companies like Surefire, Dead Air, few other ones do make fake suppressors. But Blue Can Training is kind of like on the more affordable side because it's literally just in a blue aluminum tube with like a gasket that fits over your muzzle device. But I see a lot of people, they'll put it on their like live gun. Like there's no sim bolt, there's no blue bolt, there's none of that, but they'll put it on their live gun and they'll like show their gun off on Instagram or flex online, being like, hey, I do like force on force with this kind of stuff, like, or at least implying it. But like you can see their dust covers closed, which like most sim bolts don't allow you to close the dust cover because you need to be able to see that there's a blue bolt in the gun to show like for safety reasons. So I just think it's like funny that you'll see like people trying to like flex to other people online that they don't know that they do simunitions and force on force when they don't actually do it. But
The
I just wanted to
website
talk a
literally
little bit
says
about
no live ammo. So
yeah.
so so that's $90. It's kind of affordable, but
It's a lot more affordable. Like for example, the Surefire training cans are like $300 or $400, and like I think the Dead Air ones are like pretty expensive. But they also use like the full system, like basically the locking mechanism and everything, and also the weight is matched to a real suppressor.
makes sense.
Whereas like the blue cans, they don't match the weight, but at least
Oh
they
my
can give you the
god,
length.
expensive! I'm paying
What?
this much for a trainer.
Yeah. Well, so
My god.
trainers, I believe, well, at least for the Surefire ones, I believe you can actually fire live rounds through it.
That kind of
Uh,
makes sense.
it's
Okay,
it's
that
just
one makes sense
it's
then.
almost like it's like kind of like a warden, but
Okay,
like with
frangible
no,
and live ammunition.
yeah,
That
yeah,
makes it because I'm like
because
I'm
they're
like
buff as
what
fuck.
stops me? What stops me from getting an airsoft one and a blue can of spray paint?
Mhm. Well, I mean that is the idea is that like you can make these like you could literally put like a PVC pipe and a rubber gasket on the end of your gun and do the same thing by just like
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
it's not like I think Surefire's thing is like, oh, they're marketing towards professionals because they're like mimicking the weight, they mimic the locking mechanism, and it's like basically like it's the professional variation, but like Surefire isn't even marketing this towards like civilians. It just so happens to
Yeah.
be a product you can buy, right?
No,
Uh,
obviously, the guy has his bolt locked back with the dust cover closed. Come on, like they're
yeah.
obviously legit.
Oh, definitely,
Come on, like
definitely. Yeah,
you're
yeah.
not thinking. See, you just
Yeah,
don't
you're right.
understand, because you got to be ready, right? You get bolt locked back, right?
Yeah,
With the
because
dust
it's
cover
open
closed,
bolt,
then you're
right?
ready.
Yeah.
No, then you're ready because you just have to put the mag in, and then it's way faster than putting mag in and hitting the charging handle. You just don't
Way
understand.
faster. Way
You're
faster,
just
man.
not high speed.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. I don't understand these
Yeah,
things.
you just don't get the simunition life. Okay.
Yeah. I just man, I think it's always just so funny too because it's like I see like people will like if you look at their full Instagram pages they never show that they do like any training of any kind. They just
Mhm.
show off like pictures of their guns and then you just put your blue can on there like you do like CQB. It's like really funny to me.
I didn't start painting all my guns blue.
I wouldn't advise that to anyone who's listening, but you know what? You do you. That's
Yeah, it was
we're
just
just talking
training.
about that because we're like I'm prepping for a Force on Force Op 4 event tomorrow, and we have some of the Glock factory blue guns that like
Yeah,
shoot
doesn't
sims, right?
FN shooting team use blue guns?
They do, but it's like their guns are. I mean, yes, they do, but it's like it's nothing against like making your guns
No.
blue.
I know. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just funny that
because it's
yes,
like
it's
that's
like
their colors, right?
yeah.
So
It's
it
like
just
see that FN shooting team uses blue AR.
yeah.
That's pretty fun. Just a tangent. Yeah, I've
Um,
never actually used Sims. I've only done UTM's. That's the other basically like setup or company because there's simunitions, there's UTM's. I think there's one other one, right?
well,
But
simunitions is basically like the Kleenex of the Sims world. Like basically, like
yeah.
whenever people say Sims, they just refer to any kind of force on force
Right, but
projectiles.
simunition
So
is
it's
a
like that's why
company
it's
name,
like the
right? It's
that's the
like
Kleenex of the like
yeah.
everyone
But
just
like,
refers to it as
I don't actually I've never actually used the actual simulations. I've just used the UTM ones.
yeah. They say UTM's hit a lot harder, so that's
Yeah, UTM's
that
definitely hit a lot harder.
yeah.
Actually, you know what? I take it back. I've used the 9mm simulations, and I've noticed the UTM 556, and yeah, and they hit hard. I've bled from them. I yeah, they suck.
But yeah, so we were like looking at this Glock sim gun that we have because Glock makes like a factory one. And if you're looking for reliability, that's definitely one of the ways to go because like the Glock sim guns work really well.
Block
But
17T. Is that what it's called?
yeah, they make
Yeah.
19Ts and 17Ts.
That looks kind of cool though.
I don't know any other companies. Well, sorry, I don't know any. Yeah, I don't know any other companies that have like a factory made one. I'm sure there are a lot of them out there, but Glock is definitely one of the more well-known ones. And
So is the
basically, they
17T still considered a gun by the ATF?
it is.
Like,
It
okay,
is. So
so
it's serialized and everything.
okay.
Actually, the new versions, the slide is blue too. You can see the picture in the top right corner. Or yeah. There's other ones where it's like the full gun is blue.
Yeah.
Basically, it's not.
But it only fires Sims. Like it's meant for Sims. It's
When we opened up the gun because we were curious if you can put a live slide on it, the locking block is different. So theoretically, I think if you change the locking block, you could use that as a gun that shoots live ammunition. But
cool.
I'm not sure what other things you have to change out. But I'm pretty sure it's not just like a direct hot swap. I have a 19 simunitions conversion slide, and I have a spear force on force blue bolt that I use to shoot simunitions.
Nice.
But yeah, so basically, like I think, I mean, I don't know why there would be, I guess, but it's like I don't ever really see people in the civilian space in the industry talking about simunitions, and I think it's just so much that like companies are like kind of trying to like keep simunitions to like only law enforcement use, which in my mind I kind of understand because it's like the purpose of it is for their like training and stuff like that. And I think that, you know, to a certain level, it's like simunitions is dangerous. So it's like it's like it's not like you will come out unscathed. I've seen people get some pretty serious injuries from simunitions, so it's not meant to be fucked with, basically. So it's like I could see a lot of like random Joe schmoes like, you know, buying sims and like shooting each other without wearing proper like, you know, PPE and like, you know, basically just essentially just airsofting with it instead of like using it as
I mean,
intended, I suppose.
it's paintball or airsoft, just way more expensive.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, the cost factor is to like inhibit people from like just fucking around with it,
Oh
right?
yeah, dude. I would.
So it's like, because it's like, if it was as cheap as airsoft, it's like, dude, like everyone would just buy the fuck out of it and like use it for like, you know, shits and giggles and stuff.
Yeah,
But
but
it's
you can go
also
full
like,
auto in airsoft. We made a video on it. Shout out. Go check out why airsoft's better than real guns.
I mean, technically, you can. No, I mean, when I was at Darcy, one of the dudes used a full auto lower with his Sims,
Yeah,
and that was actually pretty
just-
funny because it was like he like lit off a burst because like he was kind of in a bad spot, and he was just like, "Yeah, fuck those up for like, you know." So, well, more like, you know, it's like, oh, like I'm in a shitty situation, so time to flip to the giggle switch, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It is. I won't say I've never dual wielded to a Glock 819 sim, and then just like ramble through the door. That gets fun.
Yeah.
But and honestly, yeah, it's the cost, I think, that's prohibitive, right? Because it's like I would like to play right? I would like to train and use Sims more, with people, because it's like really the only time you're able to actually do real kind of put your like training to the test, right? Like you can only shoot steel and paper so long before but at some point you need to kind of like step up the next level of training, and I think Sims is the next level or the logical conclusion.
Well, so
Short of shooting at people with real bullets.
I mean, part of it's discipline, right? So, like, for example, I do hear like departments using airsoft guns because it is much more cost efficient, and it's like if you are using them with the right mindset, they can be really good training tools. The main advantage in my mind about simunitions is that you can just, for example, most departments are just using ARs. When you drop an AR bolt into your gun, it basically makes it so that it works identically to your actual gun.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest advantage.
Yeah,
right?
so it's like I mean,
yeah,
nowadays though, with the modern advancements in airsoft, it's like you can I mean, really think about it though. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can get like almost any part you can get in the real world that like is like relatively new into like a configuration that's similar to your gun, and like I mean there's like no recoil in like sim guns anyway, so it's like if you're using like a gas blowback or like electric blowback where it just kind of kicks a little bit, like I mean it's kind of basically the same thing, but the problem is that like at most airsoft places, like you get people doing like weird stuff where like they wouldn't normally do it, which kind of makes airsoft players good for op4 because they do like things that you wouldn't expect, so it causes you to like think about situations in a more abstract way. But at the same time, it's like because you kind of get that like, oh, like I feel invincible, I don't have to like care if I get hit because it's not that big of a deal, then you kind of tend to like do like more wild things. Whereas like, getting hit with UTMs and sims and stuff, because it hurts, it kind of makes you like think about like what you're doing a little bit more, and you don't like go as like buck wild. So it's like one of the departments I did some role playing with them. Basically, they only gave everybody like 5 to 10 rounds each for like each simulation that they did, because the parameters of the type of situations that they would come across, it like made it so that if they just had fully loaded mags and as much ammo as they wanted, then it would just break down into like basically plinking at each other. and then like it would just be like a huge waste of ammo where you kind of have to be a little bit more conservative with your decisions and stuff, right?
Yeah. So like, yeah. So that's the same. Like if you're the scenario, if you're in the scenario, we load I think 12 rounds in ARs and 10 rounds in pistols. But if you're op four, go ham. 30 rounds full auto. Have fun.
Dude, like one of the guys, one of the guys who does op for Darcy a lot. I was talking to him about his setup, and basically so apparently, if you didn't know this, if you have a Magpul D60 that is broken in, so it's not like brand new,
Yeah,
D60s run sims very well. Like
that's funny.
I was a little surprised by that because I didn't think that they would, but apparently D60s are very good with simunitions.
That's
So
surprising. I didn't know that.
right, that's like so crazy. Anyway, so he runs a D60 in his gun to start. He has two D60s in a custom chest panel. So basically, he has like two big titty D60s on his chest, fully loaded, and then he has like custom Kydex whole like mag pouches for three additional D60s on his offhand side on his battle belt. So basically, he's just like laying down the hate with like was a 60 just to start. So it's like, holy shit, dude! Like that's like so funny to me. And like, if you like saw him and like saw the setup that he'd be running, I'd be like, holy fuck, man! Like I don't want to be in a situation where I'm trading rounds with him like down a hallway or something like that.
Oh,
But yeah, that's a good tip. It's like if you're running sims, man, D60s work real well.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when I did it, so I've done obviously like Op 4 is way more fun, I think. It's because you just get no rules. You know, it's literally like playing airsoft, especially if you have like the big jacket, like a role playing jacket. It's like it looks like a bomb suit. Like you don't feel anything. You just run around like an asshole. Yeah, it's a good time. And it's interesting you said like because like when I was training, you know, like in the scenario, it's like yeah, it's very much force on force, right? But then when I was on the other side playing Op 4, I'm like, oh man, this is just airsoft. I'm just running around, you know, taking hits and be like, I'll call my hit when I feel like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I'd like to go and do more op for events, which is one of the reasons why I'm going to do the thing tomorrow. But basically, it's like most of the time, I guess I would say like most of my experience is on Blue 4 side, and like it's interesting to see like I guess how all the dynamic stuff works out, especially like comparing them to like just if you do any kind of like quote unquote tactical shooting and like what works and what doesn't because now you have like stimulus coming at you. And so like I think that's I don't know, it kind of gives you a different perspective on like what you would actually do versus like what you like pretend to do without having stimulus thrown at you. It's like a lot of people, like if you don't have a plan beforehand, everything is just gonna like fall to shambles. But if everybody sticks to the plan and does their job, it actually works really well, which is very cool. So like basically seeing like oh sorry, what?
No, sorry. Yeah, you finish.
Basically just seeing like, for example, people who don't know what they're doing being put into a scenario or having like drastic changes thrown at them that they don't expect, and then how they handle that versus having a situation that like everyone does their job perfectly and everyone like gets through. It's like I think it's very cool to see that happen, especially when you're coming under fire. It's like interesting.
It's definitely no. It's that is a very good point because and that's what I was trying to get at, albeit like not very eloquently. During training, shooting at paper targets or steel targets, static training. There's only so much you can pretend, and like kind of like look. There's only so many habits you can kind of like actually experience or learn from plinking training. Until you're at a situation where it's like, oh, someone's going to shoot at me, or like I need to clear things properly. and it's nice because it points out your mistakes instantly, right? Not like, because you don't know your mistakes. Like, you can clear a shoot house, like a static shoot house, day in and day out, but you'll never know what bad habits or what mistakes you're making until you have somebody shooting at you. And then that's where, like, I think Sims, and if you can't afford Sims or do Sims, that's why you do airsoft and paintball. Having somebody shoot at you, if you can take it seriously, it doesn't matter if you don't have Sims. But I think it's highly encouraged, if you can get people together, even just go airsoft, just, and paintball, just to have fun. But train,
Yeah, like
like,
it really comes down to just like how you're using the equipment, right? And then
yeah.
like, if you're using like airsoft, for example, just play shirts versus skins and then you'll feel it.
No, it's true, right? Like, you want to feel,
Yeah.
because and that's the other thing. So we do. You want to feel the hit. The op fours don't matter, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like whatever. But like, if you're blue four or in the scenario, it's like you want to feel every hit, because honestly, the best way to learn is through pain, right? It's like, now I know, it's like, oh, okay, like, it's not just about, like, it's not even just about. So my biggest thing is, like, you're, no matter what the scenario is or what the event is, you are always in the event. As in, like, like, if you're in a shooting scenario, or if you're in an engagement, like, just because you're not aiming down sights, or you're not clearing, you're not holding an angle, whatever, doesn't mean, like, you're not in danger. Like, so, like, where you position your body, where you're looking, how you're, even how you're standing, like, it makes a big difference. Then I learned that the hard way, because I was just like, oh, let me do this over here, and then I had my back exposed and I got lit up, just because, like, half of my body, like, a little bit of my body was poking behind cover. But then now
All
I'm
right.
just like, oh, get really flat.
So what is your most memorable quote unquote death or hit? Like where you got like hit like real bad, where it's like it was like you're bleeding a lot. It's just like what's like the where you're like, oh fuck, I'm never gonna do that again, or like what's like your most like interesting or epic, like where you took rounds and you were like fuck.
Let's see.
Do
Uh,
you have any? Because I have two instances that I'll
I've
tell.
got shot in the hand before, and that sucked. Getting shot in the hand sucked. And you still have to complete the, like, I still have to complete all the training and events, so that sucked. So I got shot in my right, actually straight out right in, like, trigger finger and thumb. So basically, my right hand was out. So for a bit after that, I had to do everything left-handed. So it was also, it was also good.
Learning experience.
Yeah, learning experience, also, as in, like, oh, look, and now I have to practice offhand shooting, or off shoulder, or weak side. So that was and then I got lit up in the crotch area. You wear cups when you do this, so but, like, of course, it shoots right outside the cup, and that shit looked bad.
Yeah. Yeah, like inner
Yeah,
thigh, it's pretty rough.
yeah, and I've been in some pretty fun, like, like, I guess, dishing, the dishing out end, and I've also seen some funny shit. We had a, we had a setup that was basically like the Rock shower scene, or like one of the scenario, like, they basically had to run out this, like, courtyard, and then the courtyard surrounded, so then once they run out, everybody, all the doors open, people on top, and just start shooting down on them.
Oof,
And that,
that's
yeah.
rough.
And I mean, and this is a secret, I don't know if it's like I'm telling people, but, like, I guess it's not really a secret, but, like, at the end of the day, when you do, I have to assume Darcy is kind of like this too. But, like, no matter if you're doing, sim training for real, and I've talked to, my buddies down in Horribird, when they were going through it, all they're trying to do, especially for Blue Four or people that's starting sim for the first time, they're just trying to inoculate you or desensitize you to getting shot. So, like, when you're blue four, you never actually get hit out. At least every time I've done it, and maybe you can speak to something different. But when we've done blue four, you never get. You can get lit up, like, left, right, center, like, people mag dumping on you, but you're never out. So,
Yeah, I would
and
say
that's
that
just
like
too.
I think that's part of like okay, that actually leads into my stories about getting killed or getting killed. But basically like, it is to kind of like it's just to provide a stimulus. So it's like,
Hmm.
I mean, there will be certain role playing situations where it's like, you do like stop if you get hit or whatever the case may be. But like, once again, it's contextual based. So it's like, I'm
Right,
just going to
right,
speak
yeah.
as generalities. Yeah, that definitely makes sense to where you're getting stimulus and you kind of just have to deal with it. So like, there was one run where we're all like headed out to like basically breach the building, and we breach, and like within the first moments of breaching I get shot in the head, and basically it hits me in the left temple, and it basically snaked in between
Ooh.
the edge of my helmet and the edge of my ear pro. So it was like, if it was like 2 millimeters any other direction, it would have hit my ear pro or my helmet. And so it just so happened to smack me right in the temple. And it was like, my marbles got knocked around, but we have an objective, and you just have to like keep going. And so basically it's like, oh, that really sucked, right? So that was kind of like one of the more memorable hits when we like first started doing it. And then the second one is just more kind of funny because it kind of makes me think of like in action movies when like people are like running to like some kind of objective, and like they're like at the quote unquote finish line, like it's like basically like safety is like right there, and then they get shot in the back and they like fall like right at the opening to like quote unquote safety, right? So like for me it was like, oh, we had exfilled, we had the package, we were like on our way to like the quote unquote safe zone, right? And I'm like running in between like two posts where basically they're fellow teammates that are like laying down covering fire. So it's like, oh, you assume that basically like when you run past them, it's like, okay, this is the safe zone. And some op 4 shoots me right in the back, like an inch below where my plate carrier ended.
Oh,
And
it
so
always, dude, it always happens every time.
yeah,
Somehow the shots will
so,
always find right outside the plate carrier, right outside the
yeah.
cup, right outside the negator. Just somehow every single, like, it's just one shot, it will find it its way.
Yeah. And I think it's like, oh man, like the thing that's too was that, like in your mind, you're like, oh, like relief, because like you just gone through the shit in the shoot house. You got the package, you're like on the way out, and it's like that's the thing that would have like taken me out. Like obviously I completed it because you don't. In that scenario, we didn't die, but it was like one of those things where I got shot in the back, and I was like, "Fuck!" It's like I'm right there. So that was basically going back to what we were saying before. Is that like, yeah, you're receiving stimulus to get it to keep yourself in check, to basically make it so that like you have to do the job that you're supposed to do. Otherwise, you could like fuck your buddies, right? So it's like if you're not doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing, theoretically, if everyone does their job right and you're getting quality training, like you're not being like basically, because there's a lot of places that teach CQB and they leave out a lot of proper context, or they don't teach you proper training, and then you obviously go out and you think you're badass and you get fucked. But basically, if everyone on your team knows what they're doing and does the job well, and I saw this unfold, I was like, everyone can go home if everyone does their job right. So basically, it kind of goes into the whole like, the stimulus there just to give you something to like be aware of, and so it keeps you kind of like head on a swivel, like you just kind of know that it's like there's something out there fucking you, because otherwise it's like, oh, you're just going to stroll through like nothing, or like you can like I said, you can pretend all you want, but up to a certain point you can't really pretend like actually getting shot, and it doesn't expose like what you're doing wrong. Right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I think that's like the most valuable part is that you'll never kind of get that like, hey, I've got like not muzzle flashes, but like you get the sound of like things whizzing by you, hitting all around you, or getting shot, and then and that's why you have fatal funnels and stuff, because people freeze up. Like, I saw it like firsthand. Literally just like, oh, go in. It's like, oh, first guy freezes, and it's like, cool, now we're all dead. Or the first few people are dead. So I wish I could do it more, but it's just it's like you said, it's not a big civilian thing. Maybe that's the next big thing, right? Offering like a package training deal.
Well, so I kind of understand why they don't, and it's basically
They
to
don't want
protect.
people to practice shooting.
Well, no. It's that they don't want the information for tactics to fall into the wrong hands. So it's like they don't want, like, for instance, our enemies to know like what our tactics are, right? So like I kind of understand that point in the sense that it's like, if, like, let's say there's like a bunch of terrorists barricading a a building, and like the SWAT goes in and like does their thing, and then like basically all of these terrorist dudes have like gone through all the same training and they all know exactly what's coming, then basically like they can fight effectively back, right? So it's like I kind of understand that part, and it's like it's not as much like, oh, civilians shouldn't have access to like this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's not to say that like, somebody could like play the long game, become a cop, go through all the training, and then do something bad, right? But it's kind of like a way to sort of mitigate that a little bit, to keep like tactics under control. And so I do understand that aspect of it. So basically like breaking OPSEC, right? But at the same time, like a lot of the stuff that people teach for CQB, for example, it's like, and this is kind of like, I'm speaking from general terms, and it's like, I'm once again not an authority on this, but like CQB is not meant for you to do it alone. It's not meant for you to do it without like pretty heavy support and or without like a minimum team size requirement. And it's also dangerous as fuck. And like your chances of dying are very high, even if you're not even if you are a professional. So essentially what it is like, I would say like the practice on the civilian side is kind of mostly LARPing and for fun, right?
That's kind of what I was getting at. Like, like you could sell like, I mean, you need actors and role players, but like imagine like you can sell like the John Wick experience, right? Because it's all LARPing. That's what that's
sure.
like. Yeah, not like obviously tactics is one thing. I get what you're saying with the whole tactics thing, because like they do use. Eventually they will, and but that's how tactics and strategy changes, but to evolve. And we can talk about that another day. But imagine like like instead of using paintball or airsoft, right? Like you're doing this, and and I think they have something like this where it's like they put people in like like I guess like active shooter situations, right? And then like they have role players, so there is something like this, but instead of making a more serious training, make it more like LARPing, like sell the the Rambo experience or the John Wick experience. You get what I'm saying?
Isn't that like Battlefield Vegas basically?
Do they do that? Well, you shoot the guns, but are there people?
Pull up Battlefield Vegas, because I'm pretty sure they use like some kind of I don't think they use simunitions, because I don't think they can get insured for that. But basically, they use like some kind of like airsoft or paintball guns or whatever, and then they have like rubber knives, and like I think they also do like some like hand-to-hand
SEAL Team 6 experience.
Where you like go through and you like do like an operation. So it's exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
no, I never knew they did that.
Here, go under experience. Let's see. Well, I know one of them. It's like there's like a thing where it's basically an airsoft field, and then like everyone goes in, and it's almost kind of like you're playing Call of Duty, but like in real life.
Yeah, because so, like, I've seen the one where it's like they take like I don't think Battlefield Vegas, maybe it is, but like they'll take you out on like you can be like a door gunner, right? Like shooting at shit, but like party.
Let's see. See.
Just one block off. Nope.
I forgot what it's called, but it's like there's I guess maybe it's not Battlefield Vegas, but I know that there's like some company in Vegas that basically gives you the experience where you pay, and then like you can do it with like a bunch of your buddies or something, and basically you go in, you get outfitted with like airsoft guns or like whatever kind of guns that they have, and then you can get like basically when you go through you quote unquote fight each other until like the last person's like left standing. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like one of those battle royale sort of thing.
What would you call this? Vegas LARP?
Maybe try like Vegas battle royale like experience or something like that.
Experience guns.
Yeah.
LARP battle gaming, live action role play battle, LARPing, foam weapon fight.
Try that one, maybe that link. But anyway, yeah. So they do have these. It's not like super common, but there are like
Oh,
basically
there's
they
this.
kind of look like they're using Sims in there, maybe.
Zombie survival. This is the video, the virtual one.
But
I don't know.
yeah,
I'll have to look.
um, yeah,
Oh, maybe
it
this.
could be
Maybe
an
this.
interesting idea.
Like they were shooting at gun battle.
Gun battle, yeah, maybe that's it. Click details. 30
Handgun, still
minutes.
one target in the combat maze. Extra. Wow.
$12. Whew.
Oof.
Well, actually, that
That's actually
actually
not
lines
terrible.
up because
That
it's
yeah.
like typically Sims are
That's
about
actually
like
not.
80 cents to a
That's
dollar
actually not.
around.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say that's
yeah,
actually the realm.
that actually
Oh,
almost feels like too cheap, actually. But
that also I'm
and
gonna
if you're
say
doing
yeah,
it at high enough, oh, maybe it's just through Top Shot. I don't know.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So basically, it's like they do have this kind of stuff, and I think like for example, there's a local gun shop
Mhm.
near me that used to offer a like well maybe they still do but basically they offer like gun classes right
Mhm.
at their range and one of the classes that you could take was like kind of like a home defense experience and they would kind of set up like a scenario or not necessarily home but just personal defense scenarios where they had like a shoot house that they would use airsoft pistols to essentially like simulate situations that would come up and they had like furniture in the rooms and stuff like that so it's like they there are things like this out there that you can you go and experience these kind of things and
Yeah, I guess
it
it's more.
kind
Yeah,
of
it's more trying. Like I was trying to get at like the LARP fantasy. Like you have role players, like people that
yeah
act out, and then people go in, and you're obviously like kind of like carrying them, right? Because it's like not it, but I just think it'd be kind of fun. You give the like maybe not everybody's using Sims because, like you said, it might be hard to insure or like get waivers for, but like. Yeah, but like maybe the person in it can use Sims, and then everyone else is just using like basically like smoke and mirrors, right? Like either you can
well
do
like
plug like airsoft or plugged phalanx.
airsoft event that they use like blanks
There's a few. I mean, or just yeah, like
the
reenactment
the
or
really
airsofts. Yeah.
the really big one though like there's like one big event airsoft
There's
milsim
like
or
Milsom
mils
West, Milsom
yeah
West.
that's it
Yeah,
I think milsim west is like the one where they use like
there we
blanks
go.
and stuff
Yeah, they have
um
like tanks, and then they have like people firing off blank machine guns. Yeah, like
yeah
I've done something similar. It's pretty cool,
yeah
but yeah, but I don't know. I'm just saying that it'd be kind of fun to do.
honestly your best bet at basically like participating in some kind of like force on force situation would be make friends with like a local police department that has a relatively decent budget that does these kind of events because the way I started doing it was I got invited to participate as a role player in what was it like a police training event and it was actually super cool because they actually had basically secured a school so like they had like a school that they were doing the simulations in and they did a bunch of simulations like for example escorting like SWAT escorting medics into the building to like rescue like downed people. So like I actually was playing as like one of the people that got shot, and then they like lifted me up on a carrier, and like basically SWAT was like protecting the medics and stuff and like moving them out of the building. And then later I got to play as Op 4 where I'm holding a classroom hostage, and then like when they come through, then I have to like shoot at the cops and they like shoot at me and stuff. So like one of the ways to like get into like using Sims would be to go to an event like that or basically get invited by like maybe like a cop, like a friend who's a cop who's like participating in this kind of stuff. And it's like you'd kind of just want to essentially like get to know the dudes who are interested in training, right? And it's like that's
VR
kind
is the
of a
future. This is the future of training.
yeah.
Come on, look at this guy, dude. He is the cyberpunk. Look at
Dude,
this
that
guy.
looks like oh man, that's so like
There we go.
that's
This
so
guy.
like
Look at this.
chappy.
This guy is the cyberpunk.
The apex predator. Um, but yeah, I would say that's kind of a tough one because it's like you can't just like walk into a police department and like, well, maybe you can.
Maybe you
Maybe you
can. You
can
never
walk into a
know.
police department and just volunteer and be like, hey, if you guys ever do training stuff, I'd be interested in being a volunteer for that as like a role player. But that was a really cool experience, and like basically, I'm going again tomorrow essentially to do Op 4. Except this time, instead of like being like a just like a casual like role player, I'm actually like donning full kit. So, so like I don't really know exactly what they need, but basically, they want us to essentially be like fully kitted up. So like plate carrier, helmet, gas masks, and like rifle, pistol, like the whole full works. So we'll see how that goes. But
Columbine 2023. What was it? What?
whoa. But I it was really funny because when I was gonna go to Darcy, everyone was like talking about their experiences and how like everyone's like guns were like jamming up and stuff. And like I don't know how often do your the guns that you use get jammed?
Uh, man, it's a crapshoot, but pretty often. Like actually, like it depends.
So
It depends. It really depends on the gun. Kind of
yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah, I would say like it's real gun dependent. And so like if you are going to do simunitions, man, the thing that's sucky about it is that like you gotta make sure that your shit works before you actually go and do it. So like the week prior to like me going to Darcy, I shot probably 500 rounds of sims through my gun to like make sure that everything worked, because I didn't want my gun to like just be constantly going down. Because like some of the other dudes that I know that went, they would basically complain that I was like, oh, like every round I'm like cleaning my gun and like trying to make sure that doesn't go down, and I would get like rounds would just stack up in the barrel, and then you'd have to like get a cleaning rod in there. But you can't like really do that in a firefight, right? Like in the building or like whatever. Like you pretty much like either have to go to your pistol or you just have to like suck it up. So everyone was like telling me like, oh yeah, good luck, your gun's gonna jam the fuck up and you're just gonna be like shit out of luck and stuff like on every run or whatever. It was so funny because outside of maybe having to clear like a handful, like I could barely even count on one hand how many times I just had a normal malfunction, but it was like my gun ran pretty much flawlessly the entire week. And so like that was like just like a godsend. Like I was like going through doing all the stuff, and like I never had a point where my gun went down to where I couldn't just fix the jam like real quick, because like sometimes the sim rounds can like they can get like kind of funky inside the chamber, like when they're getting chambered, like if it gets like jammed up, like a normal malfunction. So I would just do like regular malfunction clearing, but otherwise my gun ran perfectly. Like it was funny because like for me, I'm doing this as like, oh, I got the opportunity to go and like try this out, but like a lot of the other guys they're doing that because they're doing training for their job. So like I'm thinking like in my head like, oh man, like CQB fucking sucks, and like this is like actually like terrible, and like I mean it would be rough to actually have to do this for your actual job. So it's like the people who are doing it for their jobs, like holy shit, like salute to you, like that's awesome. But like for me, like the guys would be like, if your gun goes down, you go to your secondary, and like you just hope that doesn't go down as well. But for me, I'm like, oh shit, like I'd be like shooting and I'd be like, man, my gun works so well, this is almost kind of boring. So I would transition to my pistol just for fun, like not because it like went down, but just because it's like I just want to try like different experiences while I'm doing this. And so it was like, to me, I was like, oh man, like this is crazy. And like it was just funny because like I would see other guys, like their guns would get jammed up. Like this one dude had so many rounds jammed up in his barrel that like he would stick the rod in and the rod would like barely penetrate at all, and he was like tapping it through with like a hammer, tapping it on the ground. Finally he was just like slamming his upper onto the rod, like basically that was sitting on the ground, and then I just saw like a fountain of like sims just like coming out of the top of his barrel. I was like, there was like probably like 20 rounds that were just like stacked up on each other, and I was like, fuck dude, I'm glad that was not me, basically.
You just need shitty shot out barrels and you'll be fine. That's yeah, we just use old M4s and never jams, it's fine. No, but the pistols are generally a lot more reliable, which is why it's like, yeah, like if the M4 jams, generally like we'll just go to the Glock, because the Glock almost never jams. And it's a lot easier to clear the jam on the pistol than it is on the rifle.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I had a pretty like heavy break-in period with my pistol, but after my pistol broke in, then now that one's like fine too. So
You should have brought your MP5.
Dude, if my MP5 worked better, I would have. So I have a kit for my MP5 that lets me run Sims for it, and basically it's like I remember somebody telling me that they kind of have to like be set up properly because the way that it's different from regular sim stuff. So for example, like an AR, you just drop the bolt in, you replace the bolt in your AR, and like I would say there's a couple other things you could do too, but for the most part you should just be able to drop your bolt in and it's good to go. Pistols, it's like there's a conversion kit, right? But the MP5 one is super weird because it's almost like you're converting your gun into airsoft because there's like a barrel that it's clamped to the tri-lug on your MP5, and it's an internal barrel that goes into the barrel of the gun. So they say like you have to quote unquote tune it, I guess, but I don't really know what that means. And so it's like the one time that I like installed it in my MP5 and I was shooting it, it ran rounds fine, but it was like shooting like pretty far off of where I was holding it at pretty short distances. So I was like, oh, this is not like working as well as I thought it would. And so basically I just didn't I didn't use it. But apparently like one of the dudes at Darcy uses a full auto MP5 SD, I guess, or something like that, or he's like run one there before, and I'm like, yo, that's fucking sick. Like just cool. Yeah, like being able to run an MP5 SD would be so cool.
Yeah, I should get it working so you can use your MP5. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, I'll have to try. I don't have as many pistol or 9mm sims as I do rifle sims, so that's one thing that well, and it's also like for me it's like stacking up on sims is like so extra because it's like a lot of times, you know, if I go to like be op 4, they'll provide
you were
ammo
just
for you.
flexing on people that didn't have sims. You can't just quit halfway.
Well, no, I mean, but the point is that I do it, right? But
no,
but
I
it's
know,
like
but like
yeah.
but you can't just call it quit. You gotta go full in. Look at this. Look at all this ammo.
Well, hey, I mean, at least I actually do it, so that's the trade-off. Yeah, but basically it's like okay, I mean, I have like thousands of rounds for 5.56, so it's like I can do this, but I just, you know, I just don't like. Basically, what it is like because I'm not doing it regularly, right? Like there's like pretty big intervals between like how often I get to do it. So because I don't get to do it that often, and that's not up to me. Like if it were up to me, I would do this every fucking week. But like if you know if basically like if there's no opportunity that presents itself, then me shooting sims doesn't mean anything.
That's why we gotta start. That's why we gotta start the LARP experience. You know, it's like. Yeah, so that you can do it really, you know, we make people think they're the protagonist, but it's actually us getting the training.
But yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I would definitely say like, just make sure your shit works before you go. Cause like that was kind of a big point of contention for like a lot of people. Just like, essentially what it is like, you don't want, especially if you're paying for training, you don't want your training to be impacted by the fact that your gun doesn't work, right? I mean, it would be like the same as like if you're
or you're just being really good at transition.
I mean, that only works if your pistol works too, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but like basically, like I would say it's the same. Like the concept is applied across the board. Like is like your plate carrier or your chest rig or whatever like gear you use like set up properly for like everything you need it to do. It's the same as like your gun, right?
So yes. So you have to shoot your plate carrier, otherwise, how would you know if it works?
Exactly.
it's thrown your plate carrier. If you don't shoot your plate carrier, you never know if it works. But once you shoot it, you know it works. But then you have no plate carrier.
So we call our company Schrodinger's plates, where like every plate is tested before it's sent out. You know, just like all the other companies, you know, they claim that the equipment's tested before it gets sent out to you, so you know it works, right?
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what it is. I mean, yeah.
We're gonna get canceled so hard for this. Actually, one thing I will say. So, if you do go to like these kind of training events, it was told to me, especially if that you should probably not use actual plates in your plate carrier when you do this because Sims can fracture plates. So basically, like one of the dudes who he does a lot of this kind of stuff that I was talking to, he basically had some of his plates X-rayed after a bunch of like force on force, and it turns out that there are fracture cracking in his plates, and so basically it's like that can happen, which is interesting. I didn't initially think that would be an issue, but you may want to put like trainers in your carriers when you're doing this kind of stuff, or like or just have sacrificial plates. I guess. I mean, that's another way to do it, I suppose. Yeah.
Again,
But
Schrodinger's plate. You'll never know.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the spirit of it is we'll have to ship them plates, but they won't know if it will catch a bullet, right? Until you shoot it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. A little niche, but interesting topic, I think.
yeah. I mean, like I would say that's it. Like the prevalence of people flexing blue cans and like just force on force stuff is just making me think that it's creeping into the civilian world as a way to flex on people who don't know any better, so that like they can be like, oh well, I'm an operator because I shoot force on force. Like I just see a lot of that, like a lot of stuff on Instagram of like dudes walking through shoot houses and stuff, and it's like, okay, I mean maybe they're legit, and they do that, on the regular, but I also see a lot of people that I'm like,
Yo, this blue
doesn't
can's only
line up.
$16.
Oh shit, Hasbro brand.
Kind of funny. Oh my god, what is this? What the fuck?
Is that a kitty? Is that a kitty cat?
Yeah, it is. But hold on,
Huh.
I've just never seen it with like the dish, but only seen
Yeah.
it with the free float. But anyways, that's
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, yeah, I just do it. I don't like play Sims. I've just had the opportunity to do them. So if you have any questions, go ask the other Jeremy and put in a comment below. Maybe he'll get you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I mean like there's a lot of stuff to do with like like for example, because I had to buy all of my kit.
Where did you buy it? Where'd you get it?
Well, if you really want to know, weaponoutfitters.com carries a lot of the stuff that you would need to do force and force simunition type stuff. And sometimes we do have bolts as well. I remember we had UTM bolts in for a while. I don't think we have any right now, but there is a ton of stuff on there. Like I use a Airboss LBM for my PPE, and it turns out that if you wear old enough masks or surplus masks, they can be penetrated by Sims. So that is something that you should be aware of. Is that there's a case where somebody got shot by a Sim through their mask, and it was because the rubber had basically like lost its freshness, I guess, and so the Sim actually punched through it. So you kind of have to make sure your kit's properly set up, or reap the reap what you sow, I guess. But yeah,
And
I mean, like I said, it's just
it also dyes your clothes too.
yeah, but that's like the coolest part, though. I mean, like I didn't. It's funny because like
I have
I
have a set of cries that's destroyed, or not destroyed, but like it's just forever stained fucking safety orange around the crotch.
yeah, I see some of my kit, like my plate carrier, and like one the pair of cries that I usually wear has like basically little different colored dots, like in random places if you look closely enough. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass to clean out, so a lot of that stuff I just left on there, which is kind of funny. I have a big splotch of pink in the middle of the back of my multicam black plate carrier.
Yeah, we're not sponsored by Weapon Outfitters, but go see them if you're interested and getting Sims yourself or whatever. They
Yeah,
have
Weapon
other stuff
Outfitters,
too.
please sponsor us.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna pull them up because I don't want to get canceled. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
probably.
what's gonna pop up on Google when I type in Weapon Outfitters. So
Oh,
if you
definitely.
know, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not on that one.
Turn safe search off. You're welcome.
Yeah.